Hello, thanks for joining me today. As you might have guessed, I'd like to talk to you about our fireplace. Now, if you've previously watched any of my videos, you'll know that myself and my family relatively recently moved into a English cottage dating back to about 1640. Now, if you're going through a renovation yourself or you live in an old house, you'll be able to relate to me in respect to how exciting it can be around the subject of fireplaces and rediscovering fireplaces. It's probably the one thing that people have in their minds, certainly when it's cold and you're sat on the sofa and you've got a nice fireplace, that people really think about in terms of cottages. Now, we had a practical reason for it and for this change as well. The central heating system here is terrible and it is something we need to address, but obviously it's very costly. So we need to make sure that the house was nice and warm. But that aside, I also wanted to create a fireplace that was suitable for the kind of house that it was in. Now, I should say at this point, I'm not a professional. I'm not in the trade. This is me having a go, as I've done throughout the whole of my house. So take the information I give you, perhaps with a pinch of salt, but if nothing else, hopefully it will spur you on to do a similar thing, or at least get stuck in from a DIY perspective in your house. Now, I'll tell you about some of the pitfalls, so hopefully you don't do the same thing, what perhaps I might change as well, and what we did ultimately from start to finish. Now, when we moved in, there was a fireplace already here, but it looked nothing like this. It was perhaps a 1920s, 1930s brick built fireplace. I didn't particularly like it. It had a gas fire in it, which was quite expensive as well. Now, when you move into these kind of houses, one of the joys of doing that is you can make it your own, and you can essentially discover lots of hopefully original features within the house. Now, we've got lots of nice wooden beams, we've got some lovely minton flooring as well, but really the main discovery in one of these houses tends to be an original fireplace. Now, that's obviously what I was hoping to find. So curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to discover what was behind that 1920s fireplace. So I knocked it down, made an absolute massive pile of rubble and mess. As you can imagine, loads of soot, and what they used to do back in the day was obviously throw lots of bricks in behind it, so there was a big mound of bricks as well. Once I had removed all of that, I was delighted to find an original fireplace in some shape or form. There's probably only about a third of it left. You can see at the back here the original herringbone style there, the charred grilled part there, and the bit just over here. The rest of it unfortunately wasn't there, so my task from that point was to try and restore it suitably, to at least make sure that people looked at it thinking that it had been restored, similar to what it was in the past. Now, when it comes to restoring, obviously you've got to use materials that are suitable. So I have done this in lime, and the bricks are obviously not new bricks. One of the things I've also realised by doing this and by owning an old house is that you become, you tend to pick up a lot of knowledge about things that ordinarily you would have found quite boring previously to moving in. So examples are probably bricks, lime, mortar, for example. Subjects that are not great at the dinner table, but ultimately you'll feel compelled to tell people anyway because you want to tell people about the journey you've been in. Now, the bricks themselves, I got them shipped at great expense because they were Tudor bricks. Obviously I couldn't put new bricks in there. Tudor bricks, they do look amazing, they're handmade, they all look different. Some of them are slightly bent as well, as you can see how they've been made. It's really worth the time and effort to source proper materials. I know it's a little bit more expensive, but you definitely won't regret it, so that's something I was really pleased about. Now, obviously there was only about a third left, which was a bit of a problem. Now, what you really hope, and I'm sure when you rediscover a fireplace, you hope to find a big, chunky, massive bit of wood going across the fireplace. Unfortunately, it wasn't the case with us. What we had was the remnants of that. So we had probably about 20 centimetres worth on this side of a big chunky bit of wood. So it was a bit disappointing, to be honest, but what do? well, you crack on. You've got to find a piece of wood that would look similar to what it was. So I went to a reclamation yard, as you might do, found a suitable bit of wood which they cut for me, sanded it all up, and just put it in. It wasn't quite that simple because it's pretty heavy. One thing I would say is it's not a problem if the wood has been kept outside. Absolutely fine, but I wish I had paid more attention to it, because I thought it was dry when I put it in, but it clearly wasn't, because it shrunk slightly. So you end up having to essentially put more mortar back in or redoing it because cracks appear underneath it. Not really an issue, but as I say, common pitfalls, I'd say make sure you're getting it where it's been kept inside, or if it hasn't, fully dry it out first. Then obviously I set to work laying the bricks. I'm not a bricklayer. Ultimately, I'm a YouTube warrior that finds out how to do things on YouTube. But luckily, when you're in an old house, it doesn't always matter. If things aren't quite straight, actually that's fine, because nothing is in the whole house. So it adds to the character. So you do have a little bit of license to get things slightly wrong. Aside from the original third, there wasn't a whole lot left. There was not really a hearth. I was hoping to find some magical hearth. It just wasn't there. It was just dirt, and most commonly ash in a lot of these houses. So I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? So I continued on the herringbone theme, and I used the same bricks and essentially did a herringbone pattern to make a hearth. Now you can't really see it too much on this video, but if you have a little look in my shorts videos, you'll see a picture of it there, and I'll perhaps add it to this one as well. It's not remotely flat, but that's because of the handmade bricks. The handmade bricks are all bent up, and it adds to the character. I wish it was a little bit flatter, but you know, as I say, it's all character and all of that. All in all, I'm relatively pleased with it, I think. I'd say pay close attention to making sure it doesn't fall down, because in this fireplace, the mortar above here was incredibly brittle, and obviously you don't want it to fall down. But other than that, I'd just say, just give it a go. If you're not that confident, at least discover what's behind something and then get somebody else to come in and do it. If you've got any questions, please put it in the comments. As I say, I'm not a builder, but maybe I'll be able to help you along the way. I would encourage people to do this because it really does make it at home. I'm going to show you more videos of the house, certainly over the next few weeks, and more discoveries, but I really wanted to get stuck into this one because I think this is what makes it a cottage. As I say, please give me lots of comments. I'd love to answer your questions, or just tell me whether you like it or if indeed you don't like it. Anyway, please check out my other videos, find out more about the cottage, and why not make suggestions of what you'd like to see next.